I don't even know where to, I don't even know how to, like, I don't even know where to start. This was such, it was such a bad, I don't know if it's this bow or what it is, Elite, but this thing was just not easy to tune at all. It's shooting a bullet hole now, 3 days later. Yeah, I don't even. All right, so I purchased a lightly used Elite Omnia in this mountain tan color, which I think is pretty cool. And this year I went with flow pink strings. I asked my wife what color strings I should shoot, and she said pink. Of course she said pink. So yeah, I got pink strings on it. I actually think it looks pretty damn cool with the pink strings, and I'll probably be shooting pink fletchings this year. Just something different, change it up year to year. Why not? It's not like it really matters. Hey, look at that. I think it stands pretty nice. If it were to fall over right now and break, I don't know if it would hurt my feelings. All right, guys, let's go over the specs on this bow before I absolutely get into the utter nightmare it was to tune this bow. But we're going to start with, this is an Elite Omnia. This is at 70 pounds, 30-inch draw. I kind of have the V2 mods at roughly 80%. And the way I figured 80% out was I have one of these last chance scales. I pulled the bow back originally. It pulled in at 74 pounds, so 74 divided by 80% is roughly 15 pounds. So I have about 15 pounds of holding weight on this, which is about 80%. And yeah, I mean, it feels good. It definitely, from my review where I had the thing really dumping into the back wall, once I dropped this down a little bit, it definitely cleaned it up. Might get a pair of comfort mods and try this out on here. I know someone who's done that, and he said it definitely changes the bow, so it's definitely something I'm gonna look at. But I have this bow right here threaded up with some Threads bowstrings. These are in flow pink. I like the one solid color on my bowstrings. I asked my wife what color strings I should shoot this year, and she said pink, so we have pink. I like it. I think it looks pretty cool. I like a string that pops off the bow. It gives it a nice look. I'm running the Shrewd Vantage bars. This is a 12-inch bar in the front with about 3 ounces of weight, 9-inch bar in the back with about 5 ounces of weight in the back. So it's a little different than what I ran last year. I ran a 15-inch bar in the front and a 10-inch bar in the back. I'm going with slightly smaller bars with maybe just a little bit more weight. I will have a quick disconnect here in the front eventually whenever Lancaster decides to ship it. So once I get that, that'll pop that out another like 1.5 inches. So it'll be a little bit more accustomed to what I'm shooting. For the rest, I have the Hamsey Epsilon rest, and I don't know if you guys can see this, but it is tight up against the cables here. I haven't had any issues of it actually touching the cables or rubbing, so that's not been an issue, but it is definitely tight to get this rest in between the riser and the cables, but you can do it. For my sight, I'm shooting an HHA Tetra Max again, and right now I have an UltraView UV housing on it. This is not the big one, this is not the XL, this is just a regular 1-pin housing. I'm going to try and shoot this single pin here for a little bit. I'm not a huge fan of single pins for hunting, me personally. I like to use a multi-pin. I don't feel like it clouds or it congests my housing, but it's kind of up to you what you want to shoot. But me personally, I like shooting horizontal pins, 3 or 4 fixed pins, and then being able to move it if I need. That's what I have here on this bow. Is there anything else that I'm missing? I just have your O-stock peep sight in here, and yeah, that's it. So that's the bow build. Rooster says he approves. I really do like the bow. I like the way it shoots. That's why I bought it. And once I got this thing tuned, again, I like the bow. Shoots really well. It's got a lot of good speed. And I think this is still a really good bow to shoot this year. Now let's get into the absolute and utter nightmare it was to tune this thing. I don't know if it's this bow, just this one particular, or it's just Elite Omnias across the board. And I'm sure you guys will comment to let me know if you've had any of these issues. But I know people who have these bows, and some of them are great right out of the box. Tunes, no problem. Just a little turn on the set screw with the set technology, bam, tune, bullet hole, right through paper. And then other people, it has been a complete and utter nightmare, and I'm one of those people. I've done more on this bow than I've done on any other bow ever to get this thing to tune and be consistent and just not be a hot piece of garbage, to be honest. So right out of the gate, I had a right tear. Set my rest at 13/16 off the riser. Shoot through paper, a little bit of right tear. It's not an arrow spine issue. I'm shooting X Impacts 250. This thing is 70 pounds. Even with an aggressive cam, these are plenty spined good enough. I want to see how well the set technology works. So I loosen it, go to move it over, take the right tear out of it, and I move it, I don't know, 3/4 of the way, all the way to maxed out to fix a right tear, and which is leaning the cam towards the bottom of the cam away from the riser. So I go to do that, all well and good. I start to get the tear out of it. The tear's almost gone out of it, but at the end of the back wall, I kind of have this really funny feel, and it's actually the cables rubbing against the cam because the cam is leaned so hard. The bottom is leaned so hard away from the riser, it's actually pushing into the bus cable, and I didn't like that. So I have this right tear, can't get it out with the set technology, so I'm like, all right, what's next? Next is move over here to the LTR to move this roller guard, and I read the little instruction manual online. Move the roller guard, you got to push it to the right. Well, the only way you can move the roller guard is you have to loosen the set screw that's in the top, and you honestly have to press the bow. So you press the bow, you release tension on the cables, move the roller guard to the right. A few notches to the right, and tighten it back down, go to shoot it. Tears way better. Everything starts to I'm starting to get bullet holes. I'm like, man, this is awesome, but I have this thing all the way to the right. Who really cares? Because A, it's giving me more clearance for my arrow rest anyways. It's adding maybe a little bit of cable tension to the bow, which is gonna be good. It's like twisting up your cables maybe a twist or two, so it's adding a little bit of draw weight to it. But the one thing I noticed once I did that was at full draw, if I looked up at that top cam, the top cam was leaned so hard to the left still. I wasn't contacting my cables, but it looked like my mainstring, I don't even know how to like demonstrate this, but it looked like my mainstring was gonna derail off of the cam at any time when I let this arrow go. And that just made me extremely nervous because I had so much cam lean in this bow that I just was not comfortable with it. So I ended up pulling, like I said, I pulled the cams off of this thing. I completely depressed this bow. I pulled all of the limbs off of it. And my deflection rates in my bottom two limbs were a 113 and a 114. So a pretty good even spread. They're matched. They fine. I had no problems with this bottom cam. Never had a chance. It never rubbed. I never had excessive lean in it. It was just, it never seemed like the bottom cam was the issue. It was always the top cam. So when I pulled the limbs out of the top, the limb on the right side of my riser here was a 113, and the limb on the left side of my riser was a 119. So a pretty big spread, and that is what was causing my cam lean. As I was drawing the bow back, one limb was obviously stronger than the other, so the weaker limb was bending. And what it was doing was it was leveraging the cam away, the bottom of the cam away from the riser. And that's where I was getting this big lean from, which was really fucking up my tune and making this bow really hard to tune. I swapped the limbs left to right. So now my heavy limb is the one on the right side of the riser. It's just my 119 and my 113. Put the bow all the way back together. Get everything dialed back in. Set the limb pocket adjusters back to center. Set the LTR to center and shoot it, right tear still. Oh my God, this is never gonna go away. Ended up moving the LTR back to the right where I had it because I like the string clearance that it gave me, plus moving it to the right will help fix a right tear. And once I did that, it fixed that thing and shot bullet holes, no problem. Now, I don't have any excessive cam lean anywhere. I have no cable and cam contact points. And this thing is just, it finally shoots. 3 days later, pulling my hair out, trying to figure out what the hell is going on, being a novice bow tuner who happens to have a YouTube channel, just trying to get this thing tuned out, has been an absolute nightmare. I thought for sure that the set technology was gonna be awesome. I mean, it wasn't a selling point for me, but it was definitely like something cool that the bow had that I was like, man, I don't have to press this thing. And I pressed this thing probably 20 times in a week. All right, guys, at the end of the day, this Elite Omnia is not a terrible bow. I know I just spent the last 20 minutes absolutely talking about how terrible and nightmare this thing was to tune, but the way this bow shoots, the way it holds, the way it feels in my hand, I still love it. It's still a good bow. Is it the bow I'm gonna be hunting with this year? Maybe. It's definitely the bow I'm gonna be bringing to TAC. It's definitely the bow I'm gonna be bringing to the First Form Knockdown Challenge here in April. Thanks for watching this video, guys. If you got any comments about these Elite Omnias or if you've had similar problems, drop me a comment down below. If you are someone at Elite who is watching this video and you want to talk more about how bad this thing was for me to tune, and maybe you have some advice for me next time or some tips and tricks, go ahead and shoot me a comment in my DMs on Instagram and we can talk about it. Thanks for watching this video, guys. Let's go shoot some arrows, huh? Let's go do some fun stuff now. Ah. Say it's shooting pretty well when I'm blowing up nocks and arrows.